This morning I spoke again. It seems like we should be on direct dial, the two of us, Governor DeSantis, and I'm going to Florida Saturday morning.
President Biden's going to go to Florida tomorrow to survey damage from Hurricane Idalia. The president spoke with Governor Ron DeSantis yesterday about federal aid. Biden calling on Congress now to boost FEMA funding as losses from Idalia are expected to top $10 billion. Let's bring in Florida Republican Congresswoman Cammack for more on this. So the president's asking for some $12 billion in new funding from Congress for FEMA, and at the same time yesterday at two events suggesting that we live in a world where these weather events are going to continue to get worse. Listen to what he said.
I don't think anybody can deny the impact of the climate crisis anymore. Just look around. Historic floods, more intense droughts, extreme heat, significant wildfires have caused significant damage like we've never seen before. There's still some deniers out there in terms of whether or not climate change has anything to do with any of this. And we're going to need a whole hell of a lot more money to deal with emergency appropriations.
So what do you say to that, Congresswoman?
Well, if you can see behind me, this couple, Amy and Jorge, this motel is their livelihood and it is gone. So maybe instead of playing politics, the president should focus on helping people get back on their feet. I'm standing in Cedar Key where we still have hundreds of thousands of people, 100,000 people without power. There are linemen trying to restore. There are complete buildings that have been swept out to sea. We need to focus on recovery efforts and actually getting real aid into these communities like Horseshoe Beach and Cedar Key, rather than standing up and trying to make a political statement about climate change.
Congresswoman, to the president's credit and Governor DeSantis's credit, they are both putting politics aside, at least for the moment. They have been communicating regularly. They have both said that they are working hand in glove to do what they can. I mean, that's sort of positive, right?
Certainly. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat or independent. We have to come together as Americans and help communities that are in need. And you see that happening right behind me, as you can tell. But, you know, to start making about how we're going to get this funding, whether it's tied to Ukraine funding or not, which, as I have said previously, is totally unacceptable, that's something that is going to have to happen, that conversation. And again, putting Americans first, people who have lost their homes, their livelihoods. So many of these coastal communities are tourist areas where we have multi-generational families that have established their presence here. So we need to put politics aside, come together and work as Americans to get these communities back on their feet. It's not a 1, 2, 3 day process. This is going to be months and possibly even years of recovery.
Yeah, I mean, as we saw with Hurricane Ian last year, and you know, on the topic of Ron DeSantis, the country got to see close up how he handles crises and how he demonstrates leadership during that crisis. You know, he's been knocked on the campaign trail for not being particularly warm and fuzzy. But here's how the Wall Street Journal saw it. They said, Hurricane Ron DeSantis, if he can do the executive job, maybe his skill at small talk is immaterial. Can you give us your thoughts on that? That, you know, maybe you're a little prickly from time to time, but if you can get the job done, that's really what people are looking for.
Absolutely. You know, I feel like we have been living through the reality TV era of politics. I call it entertainment, where on both sides, people continually stomp their feet trying to get attention. What we have seen through Governor DeSantis is a no-nonsense approach of helping people in their darkest hours. And that's really what I feel. We need someone who is battle-tested. And I know both President Trump and Governor DeSantis equally well. I'm friends with both. I have a feeling that no matter what, the next president of the United States will hail from the Sunshine State. But at this point in time, our country is in crisis. And so we need to start looking to the helpers and really start focusing on doing what's best for Americans and putting America first.
Congressman, before we let you go, you're on the ground in Cedar Key, which is an area that was hit really hard by the hurricane. How are folks doing?
I'll tell you, this is one of the most resilient communities all up and down, and it's called the Nature Coast, but also the Forgotten Coast. And it's because there are people here, like I said, multi-generational families who have built their livelihoods, their businesses. When you see the destruction, it breaks your heart. But the thing that is heartwarming is all of the people who have come to help. This truly of folks that want to volunteer, they want to help. And the cleanup has been remarkable. I met with the fire chief, the mayor, and the sheriff here earlier today. And we are seeing how people are mobilizing very quickly to get folks back on their feet.
Congresswoman Cammack of Florida there in Cedar Key, thanks for being with us. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right.